Nash and Ari, two brothers and best friends since they were born. Now in their late teens, their favorite pastime was playing Fortnite on their PlayStation 5. On this particular Friday night, they had decided to pull an all-nighter, eager to explore the new Halloween-themed update that had just been released. "Ready to crush it, Nash?" Ari asked, adjusting his headset. "Born ready, dude," Nash replied, his eyes gleaming with excitement as he booted up the game. The PlayStation 5's powerful system quickly loaded the game, and the two friends immersed themselves in the vibrant, fast-paced world of Fortnite. Hours passed as they battled opponents and unlocked new skins and weapons. The Halloween update was everything they had hoped for: spooky, thrilling, and full of surprises. But as midnight approached, something strange happened. A faint whiff of smoke wafted through the air. "Do you smell that?" Ari asked, his nose wrinkling. Nash sniffed the air. "Yeah, I do. Is it coming from the PS5? They both leaned in closer to the console, and sure enough, thin tendrils of smoke were curling up from the vents. "Shit! We need to turn it off before it catches fire," Nash exclaimed, reaching for the power button. But as his fingers brushed against the console, a bright light erupted from it, enveloping both him and Ari. When Nash and Ari opened their eyes, they were no longer in Nash's living room. Instead, they found themselves standing in a dark, eerie forest. The moon cast an unsettling glow over the twisted trees, and an ominous fog crept along the ground. "What the hell just happened?" Ari asked, his voice trembling. Nash looked around, trying to make sense of their surroundings. I think we're inside the game." "Inside Fortnite?" Ari's eyes widened in disbelief. "How is that even possible?" Before Nash could answer, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the forest. They turned to see a shadowy figure darting between the trees, its glowing eyes fixed on them. "Run!" Nash yelled, grabbing Ari's arm. They sprinted through the forest, the sound of their pursuers' footsteps growing louder behind them. They stumbled upon a dilapidated cabin and rushed inside, slamming the door shut. Panting heavily, Ari peeked through a crack in the door. "Do you think it followed us?" "I don't know," Nash replied, trying to catch his breath. "But we need to find a way out of here." The cabin was dimly lit by a single flickering candle. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, they noticed strange symbols etched into the walls. "What do you think these mean?" Ari asked, tracing one of the symbols with his finger. Nash shook his head. "No idea, but I don't think they're just decoration." Suddenly, the cabin door burst open, and the shadowy figure lunged at them. Nash and Ari barely managed to dodge its attack, scrambling out the back door and into the forest once more. "That thing is not going to stop until it gets us," Ari panted as they ran. "We need to find weapons," Nash said, scanning their surroundings. "There has to be something we can use to defend ourselves." As they navigated the forest, they came across a small, abandoned village. The houses were in ruins, and the streets were eerily silent. But amidst the debris, they found an armory. Inside, they discovered a stash of weapons, crossbows, laser swords, and guns. "Finally, something we can use," Ari said, grabbing a crossbow. Nash picked up a laser sword, testing its weight. "Let's hope we don't have to use these." Armed and determined, Nash and Ari ventured deeper into the village. The silence was oppressive, and every creak and rustle put them on edge. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a group of grotesque, zombie-like creatures. "Shit!" Ari exclaimed, raising his crossbow. The creatures snarled and charged at them. Nash swung his laser sword, slicing through the nearest zombie. Ari fired his crossbow, the bolt striking another creature in the chest. But for every one they took down, more seemed to appear. "We can't keep this up forever," Ari shouted, reloading his crossbow. "We need to find a way to escape," Nash replied, slashing at another zombie. "There has to be an exit somewhere." As they fought their way through the horde, they noticed a large, imposing mansion at the end of the street. Its windows were shattered, and the front door hung ajar. "Maybe there's something in there that can help us," Ari suggested. With no better options, they made a break for the mansion. They burst through the door and slammed it shut behind them, barricading it with a heavy dresser. The mansion was just as eerie as the rest of the village. Dust covered every surface, and the air was thick with the scent of mildew. They cautiously explored the ground floor, finding nothing but broken furniture and cobwebs. As they climbed the grand staircase to the second floor, they heard a faint whispering. The sound grew louder as they approached a large, ornate door at the end of the hallway. "Do you hear that?" Ari asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Nash nodded. "Yeah, it's coming from behind that door." They pushed the door open and found themselves in a massive library. Shelves lined the walls filled with ancient, dusty tomes. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which lay a large, leather-bound book. "Maybe this book can tell us how to get out of here," Nash said, approaching the pedestal. As he opened the book, the whispering grew louder, the words seemingly coming from the pages themselves. The text was written in a language neither of them recognized, but as Nash continued to read, the words began to make sense. "The book says there's a portal hidden somewhere in the mansion," Nash said, "but it doesn't say where." "Great," Ari replied sarcastically. "So we're stuck searching this creepy place for a hidden portal." They searched the mansion room by room, growing more desperate with each passing moment. The creatures outside were still trying to break in, and they knew it was only a matter of time before the barricade gave way. Finally, in the basement, they found a hidden door behind a stack of crates. The door led to a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the room was a swirling vortex of light, the portal. "We found it," Ari said, relief flooding his voice. "But how do we know where it leads?" Nash asked, eyeing the portal warily. "Anywhere is better than here," Ari replied. "We don't have a choice." Taking a deep breath, they stepped into the portal. They emerged in a vast open field. The sky was dark, and a blood-red moon hung overhead. In the distance, they saw a massive fortress, its spires reaching into the sky. "I think that's our final destination," Nash said, pointing to the fortress. As they made their way towards it, the ground began to shake. From the earth rose a colossal, demonic figure. Its eyes glowed with malevolence, and its roar echoed across the field. "Looks like we've got one last fight," Ari said, gripping his crossbow tightly. They charged at the demon, their weapons at the ready. The battle was fierce and the demon was powerful, but Nash and Ari fought with everything they had, determined to escape the nightmare they were trapped in. Finally, with a final desperate strike, Nash plunged his laser sword into the demon's heart. The creature let out a deafening roar before collapsing to the ground, its body disintegrating into ash. With the demon defeated, the fortress began to crumble. Nash and Ari sprinted towards the main gate, dodging falling debris. They burst through the gate and found themselves back in the dark forest where their ordeal had begun. "Is it over?" Ari asked, looking around. "I think so," Nash replied, panting. "Let's get out of here." As they walked through the forest, the fog began to lift and the trees slowly faded away. Suddenly, they were back in Nash's living room, the PlayStation 5 smoking on the floor. "We're back," Ari said, relief washing over him. Nash quickly unplugged the console, the smoke dissipating. "We're never playing that game again." Ari nodded in agreement. "Definitely not." They sat in silence for a moment, trying to process everything that had happened. Finally, Nash spoke. "Do you think anyone will believe us?" Ari shook his head. "Probably not, but we know what happened, and that's enough." With that, they turned off the TV and sat back, grateful to be home and safe. But as they sat there, a faint whispering filled the room, and they knew that their nightmare was far from over.